The camera pans over a silent bedroom, a cathedral of twilight. Blinds are drawn like sealed eyelids, and the air is thick with the ghost of vanilla and musk. On a stark, modern dresser, a tube of crimson lipstick lies like a spent shell casing. A hand, trembling, reaches for it. Studio microphone narration, a raw, shaken whisper. They tell you a single moment can change your life. A car crash, a diagnosis, a yes at the altar. They never tell you it can be something as quiet as this. The click of a lipstick tube, the scent of wax and perfume. I thought it was a secret I was keeping. I never realized it was a lock, and she had the key. Fade in on Elias, 22. By day, he is a ghost in a cubicle, a junior data analyst whose sharp mind is wasted on spreadsheets. By night, he is a legend in the pixelated realms of online gaming. To the world, Elias is unassuming, quiet, a study in beige. But in the hollow hours of the night, in the sanctuary of his apartment, another self breathed. It began in his teens, a stolen moment with his sister's silk scarf, the illicit thrill of a fashion magazine, the way a pair of tights felt against his skin when no one was home. He had buried that boy, packed him away in a dusty box under his bed, convinced he had suffocated him with practicality and fear. Then came Zara. Zara, 24, was not a person. She was an event. A storm of sharp confidence, designer clothes, and a laugh that could command a room. She didn't walk. She swept in, rearranging the furniture of your life without asking. What began as playful condescension, critiquing his clothes, choosing his cologne, remarking how his skin was wasted on a man, had morphed into a quiet, pervasive control. Elias, starved for affection, mistook her obsession for love. He was happy. He had to be. The box under the bed held the evidence against his happiness. A raven black wig, a simple black dress, a pair of size 9 stilettos, and the lipstick. The very same shade Zara had left on his nightstand that morning. A deliberate accident. "I'll be late, darling," she'd purred, tracing his jawline. "Don't get into too much trouble." The wink she gave him was less a flirtation and more a dare. Tonight something in him broke. The apartment was an echo chamber of his own anxious footsteps. The city outside hummed a distant, indifferent song. He knelt, fingers tracing the worn cardboard of the box. Just once. No one will know. The lie was as familiar as his own reflection. He twisted the lipstick open. The scent, Zara's scent, filled his head. Leaning into the bathroom mirror, he saw Elias, a pale and frightened boy. With a shaky hand, he applied the color. One swipe, then another. The face that stared back was different, sharper, softer, a stranger with his eyes. His heart hammered against his ribs. He was a moth drawn to a beautiful, destructive flame. He pulled out the box. The dress slithered over his skin, a cool second self. The wig settled on his head, a cascade of impossible silk. And the heels. The heels changed everything. They forced a new posture, a new balance, a new way of holding the world at bay. He stared at his reflection, a composite creature of shadow and light. Not Elias, not quite. Someone else. Someone beautiful. Someone free. A notification shattered the silence. Zara. Surprise. On my way up. Left my portfolio. Freeze. Elias's blood turned to ice water. The lipstick. The dress. The heels that made him a clumsy giraffe. He wasn't Elias. He was her. Panic seized him. He stumbled, catching himself on the vanity, the mirror shuddering with his terror. He clawed at the wig, but the latch was stuck. The jiggle of the doorknob. The sharp click of the lock. "Babe, I am so sorry. I completely forgot my..." Zara's voice died in her throat. She stood in the doorway, her silhouette framed by the hallway light. She saw the dress, the smudged lipstick, the wig askew, the teetering heels. She saw him. The silence stretched, thin and brittle. Elias expected shouting at disgust, the slam of a door. He did not expect the slow, curious smile that spread across her face like an artist discovering a new, exotic shade of pain. "Well now," she murmured, closing the door behind her with a soft, final click. "Tell me about her." "You weren't supposed to be home," Elias whispered, the words catching in his throat. The heels wobbled, a perfect metaphor for his entire existence. "And you weren't supposed to be so breathtaking," Zara replied, her voice a low velvety hum. She circled him slowly, not like a predator, but like a connoisseur admiring a priceless forbidden statue. "You've done this before, many times." It wasn't a question. Elias's silence was his confession. Zara's smile widened. What do you call her? The question struck him like a physical blow. A name. A secret sound he only ever formed in the deepest parts of his mind rose to his lips unbidden. Ilara, he breathed. Ilara. Zara repeated, tasting the name. It's beautiful. Why would you hide someone so beautiful from me, Elias? You're not angry? Oh, I'm incandescent with rage, she said, her voice dropping to a chilling whisper as she stopped in front of him. You didn't trust me. You lied to me with every boring shirt and mumbled apology. You let me believe you were incomplete. She leaned in, her breath warm against his ear. But that's my fault. I should have been more persuasive. Don't worry, I'm going to fix it. Before he could react, she strode to the vanity, her movements precise and predatory. She patted the stool in front of her. Sit, Ilara. He hesitated. Elias, she said, her voice hardening. She held up her phone. Marcus has been asking me if you're okay. He says, you've been distant. A single picture would answer all his questions, wouldn't it? The mention of his best friend was a knife to the gut. Defeated, he shakily sat, the dress rustling around him. Good girl, Zara cooed. She began her work. She didn't just reapply the lipstick. She sculpted his lips with liner, creating a perfect, tragic pout. She contoured his cheeks, dusted his eyelids with shadow, and meticulously applied mascara. Each stroke was a claim, a brand. You see, she whispered, her reflection next to his in the mirror. You were trying to be a woman. I'm going to teach you how to be a work of art. When she was done, Ilara gasped. The person in the mirror was no longer a man in a dress. She was exquisite, a porcelain doll with haunted, beautiful eyes. A part of him was screaming, but a larger, more treacherous part was preening. Then came the first real test. The doorbell rang. Pizza, Zara announced brightly. Go get it. What? No, Zara. Please. Ilara. She corrected sharply. You're a woman in your own home. Answer the door. Her eyes flickered to her phone. Or should I invite Marcus over for a slice? Heart pounding, a symphony of terror and thrill, Ilara stood. She clicked across the floor, each step an eternity. She opened the door. The delivery boy, a kid younger than her, barely glanced up. 10:50. Her voice came out as a strained, airy whisper. It's prepaid. Oh, cool. He handed her the box and left. She closed the door, leaning against it, shaking. She hadn't died. See? Zara said from the couch, a glass of wine in her hand. The world didn't end. In fact, it just began. The days that followed were a suffocating, intoxicating blur. His male clothes vanished, replaced by a curated wardrobe Zara had apparently been collecting for months. His training became rigorous. Posture lessons with books on his head. Voice modulation exercises. Walking in heels until his feet bled. Any resistance was met with a quiet threat, a flash of a photo on her phone, or worse, a look of profound disappointment that made him feel like a failed project. The most difficult situation came on a Saturday afternoon. Ilara was sitting on the couch, perfectly made up in a silk blouse and pencil skirt, when a key turned in the lock. It was Marcus. He had a spare key for emergencies. Elias? You here, man? He called out. Walking into the living room, he froze. His eyes widening as he saw Ilara. Zara moved with lightning speed, stepping between them. Oh, Marcus. I'm so sorry. You startled us. She laughed. A perfect performance of surprise. Who? Marcus stammered, pointing a trembling finger at Ilara. This is my cousin Ilara, Zara said smoothly, putting an arm around Ilara's rigid shoulders. She's staying with me for a bit. Ilara, this is Elias's best friend, Marcus. Ilara felt the world tilt. She was trapped. Her mind was a white screen of static. Say hello, darling, Zara prompted, her nails digging into Ilara's shoulder. Hello, Ilara managed, her voice a strained, unfamiliar falsetto. Marcus stared, his brow furrowed. You look a lot like... Elias? I know, they could be twins. Zara laughed again, a sound like breaking glass. It's a family thing. Strong genes. The 20 minutes that followed were the most excruciating of Ilara's life. Zara forced her to make small talk, to offer Marcus a drink, to comment on the weather. Every word was a lie, every gesture a performance on a razor's edge. When Marcus finally left, still looking confused and unsettled, Alara collapsed onto the couch, gasping for air. "That's strike two, Elias," Zara said calmly, tidying a cushion. "You almost broke character. We'll have to work on your composure under pressure." That night, a strange lucidity came over Elias. While Zara slept, he found himself searching the apartment. He didn't know what he was looking for, only that the perfect seamless narrative Zara had built felt wrong. In her home office, behind a row of art history books, he found a small, locked metal case. Driven by a desperate need for truth, he picked the simple lock with a hairpin. Inside, his blood ran cold. It wasn't blackmail photos of Alara, it was a file. On the tab, in neat typed letters, it read, Subject 7, the Narcissus. He opened it. Inside were surveillance photos of him, Elias, from months ago, long before he'd even met Zara. Photos of him at a cafe, walking to work, alone in his old apartment, taken through a window. There was a detailed psychological profile, noting his deep-seated identity dysphoria and high susceptibility to dominant partner influence. And at the back, a contract. An agreement between Zara and an entity called the Atelier, outlining her role as a handler and her compensation for the successful conversion and acquisition of Subject 7. His entire relationship, his love, had been a meticulously planned operation. He wasn't a secret she'd discovered. He was a target she'd acquired. He was still staring at the file, the world dissolving around him, when he heard a soft noise from the bedroom. He looked up to see Zara standing in the doorway, wearing a silk robe, her face unreadable. "I was wondering when you'd find that," she said, her voice devoid of all warmth. "I was getting bored of waiting." "What is this?" he choked out, holding up the file. "What is the Atelier?" "It's your future," she said simply. "It's a place for people like you. Perfect, beautiful things who don't belong in the drab, ugly world. We find them, we polish them, we give them a purpose." "You're insane. This is kidnapping." "Is it?" she countered, taking a step closer. "Did you fight me? Did you scream? Or did you lean into the mirror and fall in love with what you saw? I didn't create Alara, Elias. I just introduced you to her." Suddenly, the front door opened. A tall, severe-looking woman in a black trench coat stepped inside. She didn't look at Elias. She looked at Zara. "Is the asset secured?" the woman asked, her voice like ice. "He knows," Zara admitted. The woman, the proctor, finally turned her gaze on Alara. Her eyes were cold, analytical. "A pity. It complicates the transition." She looked back at Zara. "Your work is done here. A car is waiting for you downstairs. Your payment will be transferred." Zara looked at Alara one last time, a flicker of something, regret, triumph, in her eyes. Then she turned and walked out without another word. Alara was alone with the proctor. "You have a choice to make, Subject 7, the woman said, her voice clinical. "You can fight, we will have to sedate you, and the rest of your conditioning will be unpleasant. Or you can walk out that door with me, accept your new reality, and begin your life at the Atelier." She held out a gloved hand. "They will call you Alara there. They will admire you. You will be safe. You will be art." Elias looked from the woman's hand to his own reflection in the darkened window. He saw the perfect makeup, the elegant dress, the haunted eyes of a beautiful stranger. He thought of his boring job, his lonely apartment, the suffocating weight of being Elias. Then he thought of the thrill, the freedom, the terrifying beauty of being Alara. He was broken, manipulated, a prisoner in his own skin. But for the first time, he felt seen. He took a slow, deliberate breath. His hand began to rise, trembling in the space between two impossible lives. The camera holds on his face, a canvas of conflict and surrender, his eyes locked on his own fractured reflection. It is impossible to tell if his hand is reaching for the proctor's or reaching to wipe away the lipstick one last time. The choice was never about the dress, it was about which ghost would haunt him forever. In the charged silence of the room, the choice hung before him, stark and absolute. The proctor's gloved hand was not an offer, it was the closing of a gate. In that moment, the pragmatic data analyst that was Elias warred with the terrified, nascent creature that was Alara. To fight was to lose, to be drugged, broken, and remade by force. It was the predictable, emotional reaction they had undoubtedly profiled and planned for. But to surrender, that was a different kind of power. It was a conscious choice to walk into the belly of the beast, to learn its anatomy from the inside. He could wear Ilara not as a sentence but as a shield. He would be their perfect doll, their star pupil, gathering data, observing their methods, and waiting for the single, exploitable flaw in their system. The fear in his chest did not vanish, but it was joined by a new, cold resolve. This was no longer just happening to him. This was a game, and he had just decided on his strategy. The proctor's gloved hand hung in the air, an invitation to a life sentence. Behind Ilara, her reflection in the darkened window was a portrait of a beautiful prisoner. The choice wasn't between Elias and Ilara anymore. It was between a quick, violent end and a slow, beautiful one. Between a fight she couldn't win and a surrender that might just be a strategy. With a slow, deliberate grace she hadn't possessed an hour ago, Ilara raised her own hand. She didn't flinch as her fingers met the cool leather of the glove. "All right," she whispered, her voice steady. "I'm ready to begin." A flicker of surprise, then satisfaction, crossed the proctor's severe features. "A wise choice, Subject 7. Call me Isabel. Welcome to the atelier." The atelier was not the dungeon Ilara had imagined. It was a sterile paradise, a high-tech monastery dedicated to the cult of perfection. The corridors were white and silent, the air scented with antiseptic and roses. Her room was a suite of soft grays and blush pinks, with a wardrobe that made Zara's collection look like a child's dress-up box. There were other dolls, ethereal figures who glided down hallways, their faces placid and perfect, their eyes holding a distant, serene emptiness. They didn't speak to each other. They were living sculptures, and Ilara was the newest piece in the collection. Her days became a structured routine of refinement. There were lessons in etiquette, dance, art history, and elocution. Isabel conducted daily consultations, which were more like interrogations veiled in therapeutic language. The person you were, Elias, was a construct of fear, Isabel explained one afternoon, as Ilara sat perfectly poised on a velvet ottoman. He was the mask you wore to survive in a world that doesn't appreciate beauty. We are not erasing him. We are simply letting the true self, the masterpiece beneath, emerge. Do you understand, Ilara? Yes, Isabel, Ilara said, her voice a practiced gentle melody. Elias was the cage. Ilara is the freedom. She was learning to say the words they wanted to hear, to wear compliance like another layer of makeup. Her only potential ally came in the form of Juliana, a doll with fiery red hair and eyes that still held a spark of defiance. They met during a silent luncheon, where they were taught the proper way to eat a pear with a knife and fork. Across the table, Juliana caught her eye and gave a minuscule, almost imperceptible shake of her head when a guard wasn't looking. Later, in the communal garden, a sterile indoor space with artificial sunlight, Juliana found her. "You're new," Juliana whispered, pretending to admire a perfect plastic orchid. "You still have that, I can think for myself look in your eye." "They'll train that out of you." "What is this place?" Ilara asked, her voice low. "It's a farm," Juliana replied bitterly. "They cultivate us. They find broken boys who like pretty things and convince them their sickness is a gift. Then they sell the finished products to wealthy patrons as companions, arm candy, living art." Ilara's blood ran cold. "Sell us? You didn't think this was a non-profit, did you?" Juliana's lips twisted into a sad smile. "Listen to me. Don't let them empty you out. Pretend. Nod and smile and be the perfect doll. But in here," she tapped her temple, "you stay Elias, or whoever you were. It's the only thing they can't take." The most difficult test came a week later. Isabel summoned Ilara to her office. On a sleek monitor was a live picture of Marcus, looking worried, sitting in his apartment. "It's time to cut the final thread," Isabel said calmly. "Your old friend, Marcus. He's been calling the police, filing missing person reports. He is a complication. You will call him. Tell him you are fine, that you are starting a new life and never want to see him again. Sever the tie, Ilara, for your own good." Her heart hammered. This was it. The point of no return. They handed her the phone. It rang twice before Marcus picked up. "Elias? Oh my God, Elias. Are you okay? Where are you?" His voice was a torrent of panicked relief. Ilara took a breath, Isabel's cold gaze fixed on her. "Marcus, it's me," she began, her voice the smooth, feminine tone she'd been taught. "What? What's with your voice? Who is this?" "It's me, and I need you to listen. I'm leaving. I've met someone and I'm starting over. I need you to stop looking for me." "Leaving? What are you talking about?" "Elias, You're not making any sense. Are you in trouble? I'm not in trouble, she said, her voice hardening slightly, playing her part. I'm finally happy. Then, she took the biggest risk of her life. Look, I have to go. Just know that this is for the best. It's like that old busted-up engine in my dad's garage we were always trying to fix. Remember, it's finally time to just let it go. There was a pause. Isabel smiled, satisfied. But Marcus knew. Elias's dad didn't have a garage, or a car with a busted engine. It was a stupid, made-up story from their childhood. A code for when they were in serious adult-level trouble and couldn't speak freely. I see, Marcus said, his voice changing, a new understanding in it. Okay, Elias, I get it. Be safe. He hung up. Excellent, Isabel said, taking the phone. You see how easy it is to let go of the past? Alara merely smiled, a silent prayer echoing in her heart. The escape was planned for the night of the annual Solstice Gala, the atelier's premier showcase event where dolls were presented to potential patrons. Juliana knew of a service corridor in the ballroom's kitchen that led to an unguarded loading dock. Security would be focused on the front entrance. Dressed in a breathtaking gown of midnight blue silk, Alara was the star of the show. Her makeup was flawless, her poise perfect. She was the culmination of Isabel's work. As the gala reached its peak, she found Juliana by the kitchens. Ready? Juliana whispered, her own emerald dress shimmering. No, Alara whispered back. Let's go. They slipped through the swinging doors into the chaos of the kitchen. But as they neared the service corridor, Isabel was there, blocking their path, an almost sorrowful look on her face. I knew you weren't truly one of us, Isabel said quietly. Your spirit was too stubborn. I intercepted your friend's call to the authorities. No one is coming for you. Juliana paled. But Alara stood her ground. For the first time, she wasn't acting. She was herself, a fusion of Elias's resolve and Alara's courage. You're wrong, Alara said, her voice clear and strong, a perfect blend of her two selves. You told me Elias was a cage, but this place, this perfection, this is the real cage. You don't free people, Isabel. You just put them in prettier prisons. I'm choosing my own freedom. She stepped forward, expecting to be grabbed, but Isabel hesitated. In that moment of hesitation, a loud crash echoed from the loading dock, followed by shouting. The fire alarm blared, sprinklers kicking on. Marcus hadn't called the police. He had called the fire department, reporting a gas leak. In the ensuing chaos, Alara grabbed Juliana's hand and they ran. They burst out of the loading dock into the cool night air, drenched and gasping. A beat-up sedan screeched to a halt in front of them, and Marcus threw open the passenger door. Get in, he yelled. He didn't stare. He didn't question the gowns or the makeup. He just saw his friend, in trouble, and he came. 6 months later. The apartment was small and cozy, filled with mismatched furniture and the smell of fresh paint. On a desk in the corner, a computer monitor displayed lines of code. Elias, dressed in a comfortable sweater and jeans, was working from home. His data analysis skills finally being put to good use for a small, independent software company. A door opened, and Julian, not Juliana, walked in, carrying groceries. He'd cut his hair short but still wore a touch of eyeliner. He was finding his own balance. Hey, Julian said, smiling. Brought dinner. Thanks, Elias smiled back. Be done in a minute. Later that evening, the apartment was quiet. Julian was reading on the couch. Elias went into the bedroom and opened his closet. On one side hung his male clothes. On the other, a small but carefully chosen collection of dresses, skirts, and blouses. He chose a soft black and white patterned maxi dress and slipped it on. He sat at a small vanity, brushed out his long hair, his own, now grown out, and applied a touch of mascara and a simple nude lipstick. He walked back into the living room. Marcus was there, having come over for their weekly movie night. He glanced up, saw Alara, and smiled. Hey, Alara, we ordering pizza? Definitely, she replied, her voice her own, a comfortable and natural sound. She sat on the couch, curling her feet under her, feeling the soft fabric of the dress against her skin. She wasn't Elias, the boy in hiding. She wasn't Alara, the perfect doll. She was a person, whole and complex, living in the light. She had found her happy ending not by choosing a side, but by realizing she didn't have to. The freedom the atelier had promised was a lie, but the journey had led her to a truth. Happiness wasn't about being perfectly one thing. It was about having the safety and acceptance to be everything you are, all at once.